And we're back with more SirSmokes. I said some things that were untrue last time. They were close to true. It was basically, I said that they had finished 10 games, they had finished 11. And I also was incorrect about the order of when the best games were. But that's okay. Basic gist of it was right. So we're on game 12, and they are not changing their hands, which should favor stuff, because the hands have looked like they favor stuff. Why that is, I can't tell you. One thing is incidental combos. And I've talked about this when talking about switching hands, especially in my tournament play. In the videos where I'm playing in tournaments, I spend a lot of time, at least in the later ones, being like, okay, if this game is tied, especially on the opponent's turn, how am I going to change my hand for next game? What can I do that prepares me for next game so that I can quickly make hand changes, not need time to hand build, and be ready to catch them? And one thing that really strikes me is 4893 wins the matchup with 4985. Like, 4985 is probably on average a better card. But head to head, 4893 wins. Right? If they're behind each other, if they're playing off each other, the 9-3 plus walls the 4, the 8-3 plus walls the 5. Right? And there's no plus walls the other way. So that's just like incidental combos favoring one player or the other. And so one thing is, can you find ways to switch your cards slightly where suddenly the kind of random backside combos all go in your favor instead of going against you? Both the 9-3-4-9s dominate each other, so that's neutral, but it tends to favor the first turn player. Today we've had now 3 first turns for Stuff, 2 first turns for Smokes. So that's going to be fairly balanced, but that's going to favor you if you're first turn. The other cards, there's not so much incidental going on, but one thing I note is the corners for 1 favor Stuff. Now, that's not really making the difference, because when Stuff is at first turn, he's started with that corner in 1, both games that he's had it. So, is that the difference maker? No, because it would be holding on to those things that would see that kind of difference. The 6-5-7-8 lined up really well last game. Right? One thing Stuff has done well, okay, we might just be seeing the same game as we saw before, though I think Stuff should try to attack it differently this game. He should play 4. But like, there's a case that, like, I wanted him to play 4 last game and he played 3, and like, yeah, you can throw different looks at a person, but he's already thrown 3 at Smokes here, and it wasn't as strong. You definitely got to play 4 this time. Which is not to say he'll be in trouble if he plays 3. Like, he'll tie, but if you want to have winning chances, you go 4. And that puts pressure on, because I don't think I think Smokes' position's dangerous, as I said in the previous video when we had the same position. I think this is dangerous. And when we checked the solver, I don't remember what lines it said. It said there were a ton of ties in 6 and 8, but that's really hard to find with no plus on, and 1 tie each in 3, 5, and 7 with not necessarily obvious cards. So that's going to require some specific calculation that I think is difficult in a vague position where a lot of moves are possible, so it's hard to get focused on a specific move. It's the kind of position where technically there's a lot of ties, but in practice the path is very narrow. Because if you hone in on a square, say 3, only one of your 4 cards there actually holds the tie. You can probably say one of them, like 7, 8, 6, 5, it's never going to be that one, you want to hold on to that one. But the other 3 cards, which of them goes in 3 and holds the tie, maybe you eliminate 1, 7, 9, 7 quickly because it's comboed. So you're down to 4, 9, 8, 5, and 7, 2, 8, 8. But it's not obvious which one of them should go there. And I believe, if I remember right, which I probably don't, but I believe 4, 9, 8, 5, and 3 is the tie, not 7, 2, 8, 8. And it would be pretty easy to convince yourself you should use 7, 2, 8, 8 there. So it's one of those things, like, you can probably get it down to a 50-50 without too much trouble. But, like, even if you pick the right move 75% of the time, if you're losing a quarter of the time, that's really dangerous, right? Okay, Stuff repeats, which I don't like. I think 4 is serious pressure, and Smokes has shown he can hold this one. Now, maybe there's a decent try that, like, you will convince Smokes to try something new here, get ambitious, which Smokes might do, but also he made the first move in like 10 seconds. So he clearly was thinking, at least on the first move, like, I found a working path here. I can just play that again. I remember talking to Sujiro, I think. I think it was he was talking about his run in Eris. And in the semifinals of Eris, I should make sure of this. I believe he played one little-known player named Seto. Yes. Sujiro's run, incidentally, in Eris is sick. We'll talk about that in a sec, but he plays Seto. I've talked about it before, but talking about it again can never hurt. Yeah, Smokes just repeats. Yeah, this is a good game for Smokes. He can repeat the same moves and get rid of a second turn game, which is why I think Stuff should have tried something else here. Because Stuff should have some advantage, and repeating something where Smokes has already shown a tie is it's not going to be that advantage. Maybe he thinks there is nothing, but I think 8-3, 8-7, and 4 is real pressure, like quite dangerous. I would estimate like 2/3 tie, 1/3 win, but that's great. Like, you'd rather that than just 100% tie, unless he thinks he has something here that he didn't have time to check last time. Yeah, I mean, not the end of the world, but I think a wasted chance with a little bit of pressure. Okay, so I remember Sujiro saying he was playing Seto in something, and they just didn't change hands and played the same game like 6 times in a row. Of just like, they were each like, okay, we played the same hands, we got the same first turn, second turn distribution, and they were both just happy to repeat the tie over and over. So, this has been known to happen, and it has happened between 2 very exceptional players. All right, let's talk about the Eris run, though, because this is nuts. Round 1, Sujiro beats Nikita. Now, you might be thinking, who is Nikita? Doesn't sound like anyone I've heard of. Nikita is Midas. So, beats Midas round 1. Very good player. Currently holds the record for most finals without a championship. So has a very serious case to be the greatest player to never win a title. It certainly has a more impressive resume than a fair number of title winners. Midas is, say, 25th to 30th best all time. Fantastic player. Round 2, Virgil. Now, you may also not have heard of Virgil, Dorf's brother, but Virgil had a very short run, played 4 tournaments, and won one of them and made quarterfinals in another. Of the great short-time players, tournament players, there is a clear top 3. First is Doc Evil, second is Karmazin, and third is Virgil. And Virgil actually beat Seto in the finals of his run. It's a very impressive run. So this is right at the time when Virgil is, like, having this unbelievable 4-tournament short run. He faces Sujiro in round 2, and he's out. Okay, round 3, he beats Nesmaj. Not as decorated a player. In round 4, Cloud Strife, long time, pretty decent player, beat Diamondback and Spitfire to get there. Spitfire, made a very far run, deep run. Also beat Cookie. Now this was 2005. No, this was 2006. And in even number years, Cookie always does great in this era. So, that's a strong Cookie that was beaten by Cloud Strife. Anyway, Sujiro beats Cloud Strife. Again, not quite as storied a player, but that account has a lot of wins on it. Quarterfinals, Kamikaze, who has a case at this point. If we ignore Doc Evil, Kamikaze is a very good case for GOAT. Okay? Semifinals, Seto, a player who very soon will, in my opinion, become the GOAT. Like, within a year and a half of this, I think Seto becomes the GOAT. And then it becomes Seto versus Deli, and, then history unfolds. But, like, I think Seto becomes the GOAT sometime soon after this. So Sujiro beats him, and then the finals, he beats Jadot. Jadot having done one of the best finals runs of all time. In large part because it was a 7-rounder. Like, you look at the opponents and you're like, this is strong but not incredible, but top form Bren right after Bren's win. Yeah, very good tournament. Yeah. So, yeah, Stujiro's Eris might be the best tournament ever won. There's a serious case for it. Ah, this game, you see, this game was different than last game because Smokes chose a different card to put in 9 and keep a different card. But basically, they just repeated the exact same game. And I think if you're Smokes, you're happy with this, and if you're Stuff, you should be only happy. Nah, I think you shouldn't be happy with this because the other question is who has more stamina, and Smokes got to rattle out this game without thinking, and Stuff paused to look for more. And I think if you're going to do that, you have to go 4 instead of 3, and otherwise you are just having done more thought without the reward of having gotten like pressure on your opponent. I'm probably overreading into this. This probably makes no difference to either player, but it feels to me like if Smokes wins the next game and I'm Stuff, I'm going to be like, I wish I had played 4, and I wish I had not tired myself further thinking about a game that I'd already played. Plus, I just think 4 is a good move. Like, I think 4 is very real pressure. So that's tie number 12. But yeah, I think there were real winning chances let go here. Maybe not. I think I just like if you think about that position, 6 and 8 are really hard to play after 1, 2, 4, especially without plus. Okay, so there are stopping for tonight. Yeah, I think that's fair. Okay, so we'll stop here. Obviously, this was not the most fascinating of videos, but we'll post it with all the rest. Content, all that, because I'm definitely trying to build my what would you call it, brand, right? Yeah. Okay, let's go.